Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Welcome back. Another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. Jake and I are back, and we have, 3 Bucks games and eight Brewers games to go through today.
Lots of Brewers.
Lots of baseball. Just want to say thank you to John from Lombardi Time Brews for hosting us for the draft over this past weekend. We were live with them on Thursday and Friday, and then Simon hung out with them on Saturday as well. John and Claudia are both really cool to hang out with and talk about the draft as the Packers were making their picks. Other than that, Sunday we were also at the Cardboard Legacy event in Oshkosh on Sunday. That was a good event as well. So thank you to Cardboard Legacy, sponsor of the show, for having us out for that. If you are watching us for the first time, having met us on Sunday, welcome to any potential new viewers or listeners, because there's both. James said, what a fun week this was. What's up, guys? Absolutely it was. And we can, thankfully, Jake and I are pretty in sync on this, on being bad news first and good news last people. So thankfully, when we start with the Bucks, we get to talk about the bad news first and then end on a high note, which was last night. So we can jump into game 3 first, and then we can talk about game 4 and then game 5 and where the Bucks are going to go from here. James is excited about the draft because they got Kool-Aid. He said he doesn't know why he's happy about that, but I like all the draft picks, though. I feel like the Packers had a decent draft. I don't think it was anything flashy, nothing crazy, nothing super unexpected, honestly. But we're planning on some draft pick related content here in the next couple of weeks, just kind of finalizing some details on how we're going to do that. But today is all about basketball and baseball. So, Jake, give me your takeaways from Game 3.
First of all, I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I slept like an idiot last night. My back is just killing me right in the middle of my back, man. Work was horrible the last 2 days. Oh, my goodness. But
help us make this our full-time job.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's what I'm telling you, man. It's like, oh, my God. I slept so bad, and then I had to lift all this heavy stuff. We have this new company coming in, and they have these giant boxes, and they're just like, hey, go lift like 7,000 pounds today. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Like, today's just the best day for that. You know, I feel great. But I'll tell you who else was feeling great last Friday. Chris Middleton.
Sheesh.
42, 10, and 5 for the guy.
Dude,
now,
on a day he was like questionable or doubtful to play.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to just like get right into the we don't want any more Chris Middleton slander, because holy cow.
Dude, this game started at 4:30 and we went live at 6 for the draft. And if you watched or you did watch or rewatched our live video from Friday night, you can see that there's points where Jake and I are just sitting there with our hands over our mouths, like shocked by what we were seeing.
It was insane. It was giving me, God, what year was that? Was that 2018 when Middleton hit that crazy three-pointer against Boston in Boston to tie it at the end of regulation? Was that 18 or 19?
Did we lose that? Was that the year we lost to them in the second round?
Yeah.
And yes, that was 18, because 19 we beat them. Wow.
Okay, so 8 that was giving me 2018 vibes, but he did it twice.
Yeah.
Did it twice in this one. Didn't have a third, but you know. Bobby
I said it in cash we trust.
In cash we trust.
James said Chris Middleton was cash money on Friday. James would know, because James is a Celtics fan, and if we get a Bucks Celtics series, I 100% expect Chris to have an amazing series, because sorry, James, not sorry, but Chris is a Celtics killer.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of Bucks killers too, so I mean, it is.
No, that's true.
He's a Celtics.
We know who they are too.
We do. They just always are bench players.
It is. Or always like the backup point guards.
Well,
right?
it's either like a bench player or like he's a superstar and he kills everybody. You know, so there's no in between for the Bucks. But on this day, Bobby Portis was good. 17 and 18. I thought Brook Lopez gave good minutes. He didn't fill up the stat sheets, but I felt like he played good. And the thing about this one is the Bucks got down big early. and it looked like we were about to get blown out of the water. We didn't look like we belonged on the same floor as them. And the thing that the Bucks did is they started to take control of the pace. And that's something that gives me a lot of hope going forward. Now, obviously, we know the result of the next game after this where we lost. But it still gives me hope for this series. James putting one in the comments. Al Horford, yeah, he's a Bucks killer. He just likes to shoot 85% from that corner three when he plays us for some reason. But, I thought that the Bucks did a really good job settling in. Dame had a really good game. Didn't shoot the ball well, but obviously we found out later that he ended up, hurting his Achilles. So that could definitely be something that could hamper a jumper, right? He made some crazy three-pointers as well late in this game. But the thing that I really want to point out is how the Bucks defended the three-point line. Now, Indiana shot 13 of 49. That's 26.5% from the three-point line. That's incredible. If you're going to let them shoot 49 times, you play defense like that, you give yourself a chance. Do you want me to break down the Chris Middleton scoring real quick, or do you want me to hold on to that?
If you'd like to.
Okay, so in the first quarter, he had 4 points. He was 2 of 5, 0 of 2 from the three-point line. So you're like, this is not looking great, right? Second quarter, he goes 5 of 8 overall, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. That's 11 points. So he ends the first half of 15. Third quarter, he goes 2 of 4, 1 of 2 from 3. And then the fourth quarter, he goes absolutely insane. 5 of 6 from the field, 1 of 1 from the three-point line. I'm not counting free throws in this. So he had 11 points just from the field. And in overtime, he was 2 of 6 and 1 of 2 from the three-point line for 5 points. So 36 of his 42 points came from the field.
Jeez.
He was 6 of 6 from the free throw line. So, I mean, man, he was on another planet. Man. I think if Dame was healthy, didn't get hurt, I think the Bucks find a way to pull this one out. Well, there's also another thing they could have done is probably rebounded the basketball, right? But yep. I'm going to wait for you to do your breakdown and we can have that discussion.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can start with that. We can start with the fundamental failures, as I call them. Mm-hmm. Bucks only missed 1 free throw. That's good. Very good. Gave up 14 points off turnovers. That's a little high, but honestly, anything around 12 and I'm okay. So 14 is not crazy. The thing that obviously killed the Bucks is 32 second chance points. That is insane amount of second chance points. That's double what I'd like to see. Mm-hmm. James said that's the thing about big leads. You can come back, but the saying is the bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. It's better to have the points at hand than expect them to come to you. And I don't think the Bucks were expecting anything. Just like, I mean, the Pacers playing at home are probably expecting to play with more energy. Tyrese Halliburton's talking about, we're going to expect a bigger crowd, a better crowd than Milwaukee has. And we'll get into that when we get into last night's game, sorry. But you mentioned Chris Middleton already, and I want to go again to this. The fact that he was questionable and doubtful originally to play in this game after twisting his knee and ankle in game 2, and then putting on a performance of 42, 10, and 5, I do not want to hear a single other bad word about Chris Middleton. I don't. It's over. There's no reason to still be dogging Chris Middleton. I don't care how many games you thought he should have played in the regular season. He's playing now, and he's playing through his injuries.
That's a great point.
He's doing everything you could possibly ask him to do. He's doing it well. He's doing it efficiently. And again, I'm going to get into more of it when we get into last night's game. He's doing everything you could ask of him. When this series is over, I'm going to compare him to somebody else that Bucks fans wanted him gone for, but I'm going to save that until this series is over.
All right.
You said we made it loud as hell last night. Sorry to go off topic. It was absolutely electric. Hey, I'm glad you were there cheering for it. James was talking about the guy behind the broadcasters last night.
Dude, he was hilarious, bro. He was so funny.
You mentioned Dame already kind of re-aggravating his Achilles. Didn't shoot well, but he did make some big shots during the comeback, and he was 12 for 12 from the free throw line.
Yep.
To finish 28 and 8. Beverly gave 11 points. Brook Lopez gave 14 points. Now on Brook Lopez, Brandon he's been a bunch of different sports shows over the years. But Brandon Snide, he hosted Locked On Brewers for a very brief time, but he also had his own show on 620 for a little while. And before that, he was on a show kind of like ours. It's last week he came and he was talking to us about Brook Lopez and not rebounding. Now, Jake and I had this conversation about it, and this is the thing with Brook Lopez. So when we get to Brook Lopez, there's only so much he can do as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this conversation that you can't expect Brook Lopez to rebound just because he's big, when the other things that he's doing make it harder for him to be an elite rebounder.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing that Brook Lopez does that makes him who he is and not a high rebounder. It's just how it is. I want to pull up the exact numbers, so I'm just pulling that up here for a second. Contested shots. Here it is. I got it. So Brook Lopez, we've had this discussion before, led the NBA in contested shots. He contested 1,234 shots, by far the most in the NBA. The next closest is Chet Holmgren at 951. So nearly 300 more contested shots than the next player. This is the thing. Brook Lopez cannot contest shots, land, turn around, and go rebound. That's just not something that's a realistic expectation for Brook Lopez. And saying that he should be a leading rebounder just because he's 7 feet tall is short-sighted, in my opinion. Like I said, it's not realistic to expect him to contest, land, turn around, and rebound. It's just not a realistic thing.
No, it's not.
So that's something you have to keep in mind. Now I will level with the people who want Brook Lopez to be stronger in the paint. On the shot that he missed, I believe it was in overtime, he had a missed shot that he put like a floater up from just inside the free throw line. And I think it was Siakam that he let jump in front of him to grab the rebound. In that situation, I'd like to see Lopez just be a little more aggressive. So it's not even that he didn't come down with a rebound. I just want to see him be more aggressive.
Yeah, I agree.
So I will level with you on that specific play, but overall expecting Brook Lopez to just be an all-NBA rebounder just because he's 7 feet tall is just not his game. That's not how the Bucks use him. That's not how they want to use him. That's not what made him a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year.
Agreed.
Okay. So now that we've had that conversation, Michael, you got to start setting a clock for 4 o'clock. All right. Game 4. What's up to you from Game 4 on Sunday?
All right. I'm just going to start with it, okay? I'm going to start with the elephant in the room with this game. I'm going to start with the Bobby Portis ejection.
Bobby Portis? Okay. That's the first thing I have written down, too.
I have some thoughts on it. One, I'm just going to put this out there first. I am not against Bobby Portis getting kicked out. He should have got kicked out for what he did.
Oh, that way, yeah.
If the rules are you get one for the push and you get one for the swipe, the slap, whatever you want to call it, fine. I'm fine with that. I'm just going to say this, though. Nembhard started it. How'd he only end up with 1? Yep. He did a tug and he pushed first. He initiated the contact. Yep. How does he only end up with 1?
Yep.
2, the NBA referees are fucking cowards. Siakam got a tech early for staring at Bobby. He comes running into the situation when Nembhard and Bobby are going at it, and first thing he does, he doesn't go for his guy first. He makes contact with Bobby. How does he not get a second tech?
That's fair.
How does he not get thrown out?
That's fair.
They're fucking cowards for that.
That's fair.
Because every single time you see a situation like that, that guy that comes in, the third guy that comes in and makes contact, if the first move is to go get your guy and then you make contact, okay, I'm fine with it. But his first move was to go at Bobby.
That's an escalation.
He deserves a check in that situation.
That's an escalation,
exactly.
Not a de-escalation.
So they are cowards for keeping him in the game. Not saying that we would have won, but the way that the Bucks were playing, Brook Lopez was cooking. Middleton still had a great game. Malik Beasley had 20. People want to forget about that pretty much.
Can we finish? Can we just wrap up the Bobby thing quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the game?
Yeah. So that's just my thoughts on it is, how do you not kick out Siakam? How does Nemhard only get 1? And how is Bobby the only one to get 2? Again, I understand why Bobby got kicked. I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
But if you're going to hold everybody to the rule book, Siakam should have been tossed.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, James, it's like that so that you don't bleed from the ears when we go on a rant.
Sorry.
Okay, so on the Bobby thing, I think you're bringing up a totally fair point on Siakam coming into the situation, because there was a long period in the NBA where if there was like a fight or something going on the floor, that if you were on the bench and you stood up, you were getting a 1-game suspension.
Yeah.
So for Siakam to come in and not grab Nemhard and pull him away from the situation, but to go and then go at your opponent as an escalation, that's a fair point. That's totally fair. And I agree with you on Nemhard. If he has 2 acts in that situation also, that's 2. That's 2.
It's the same thing as Bobby.
Yeah,
and Nemhard had some buckets late in that game that kind of put the Bucks away.
It's fair. It's totally fair. My thing was, Bobby, 100% defend yourself, defend your teammates, but your teammates need you on the floor.
Yeah.
In this situation when we're playing without Dame and Giannis, you can't get thrown out. 1 technical, I can understand, but the second swipe, swing, whatever you want to call it, that you just can't do it. And he admitted as such. He said he apologized to his teammates after the game. He said he was sitting in the locker room during the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and he had to just sit there and watch the game go by, and he apologized to his teammates that he needs to be there for them on the floor. So Bobby did address that with his teammates after the game. And this, I will say, still not getting rid of Bobby Portis just because of that.
I don't know why we have to keep having this discussion with him and Pat. Why do we have to keep doing this, Tyler?
Let's put a pin in both of those two, and let's bring them up again when we talk about last night.
Okay. Oh.
So aside from Bobby Portis, what else did you want to say about Game 4? I'll give James comment before I get back to you. But James said, similar to the NHL, you're allowed to fight. You just have to eat the 5-minute major in the box. If you start an altercation after the original fight, then you get a game misconduct and you're ejected from the game. That's fair. And that's the thing, is like, if they're going to sit and go through this and look at all these reviews for 5 minutes after this altercation happened, and be like, okay, we're going to make an example of one player and slap a wrist on one other player. Like, it's got to start evening out.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
Come on. That's all I'm saying too. So for me, I thought that Brook Lopez, this was, people forget in our title run that Brook Lopez had some pretty big games.
Sure did, especially in the Hawks series.
Same thing with Middleton. So
yep.
For me, I was still feeling kind of good. I mean, losing Bobby doesn't like make me feel great about our chances, especially without our two top scorers, 2 best players, right? But you know, Chris and Brook are 2 very good players. Pat Bev and Pat Connaughton, give them both credit. They're both good players. Yep. And Malik Beasley had 20, 8 of 12, 4 of 7 from 3. So he started to cook a little bit. Brook Lopez was absolutely frying Miles Turner down low.
Yes, he was.
Now, Miles Turner was returning the favor on the other end as he was stretching the floor and hitting a ton of threes. Indiana hit their team playoff record amount of 3-pointers to beat the Bucks without Bobby, Dame, and Giannis by 13 at home. And Chris Middleton is hobbled.
Yeah.
So just want to give a shout out to Brook, man. I would love if the Bucks found a way to stagger Brook and Giannis a little bit more and let Brook attack down low a little bit more so you can get a little bit more touchdown there. I think he's a guy that could absolutely take advantage of some of these kids. They don't even teach post defense anymore. They just teach you how to be a big guard now.
True.
So, I mean, Brook Lopez could be a throwback, and we can use that to our advantage. So, I just wanted to give them a shout out, and Pat Bev also. We haven't brought up his injuries at all, but he's fighting through a bunch of stuff right now too. So, the Bucks are just the wounded warriors right now, just fighting like hell.
Yeah, and it's really encouraging. And we kind of talked about Beverly when he was first, you know, like announcing that he was going to need wrist surgery and that he was going to try to play through it. And, you know, we had that discussion that he's a warrior for it. But Andrew and Reggie, we're going to get to those comments right after we get to Game 5. So let me wrap up Game 4, and we will get to both of those in just a minute. Now, Game 4, you already mentioned Brook Lopez cooking. For him to go 12 for 18 from the field and 3 of 5 from the three-point line and give us 27 points and 9 rebounds, he's just another player that Bucks fans need to just relax.
Man.
Because he's capable of these things.
Yep.
And I would say if we have one more member of the big three, whether it be Dame or Giannis, and this version of Brook, I fully believe that the Bucks can still win this series. And I had written this when they were down 3-1. I wrote that in my notes before last night's game.
I like it.
Now, Chris, again, keeps playing through injuries. At one point, he kind of injured his back a little bit in this game. He went down kind of hard, came out like a minute and a half later, came back in, gave the Bucks 25 points on 41% from the field, and then 10 rebounds and 5 assists. Let's see. Well, I'll leave James' comment. Bucks didn't shoot bad except for free throws. Honestly, they missed 5 free throws. They only gave up 8 points off turnovers. They only gave up 3 second chance points. That's 16 fundamental failure points. That's easily the lowest I've ever seen. And then you look at Indiana's 3-point shooting, and it makes sense. So that's where I'm at. After this game, Chris Middleton said, win at home, do what we have to get back here. That's what he said. So they're taking it one game at a time. They're focused on winning at home, which they did last night. Tomorrow, they're going to be focused on just getting back home. And then, potential Game 7, if it happens on Saturday, you win that game at home. That's what you're focused on. And when Chris said this, it's like, how do you eat an elephant? You ever heard the question, the hypothetical question, how do you eat an elephant?
Never heard that, actually.
One bite at a time.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's where we're at with the Bucks. One bite at a time, one game at a time. So let's go to Game 5. Andrew said, Gallinari, light it up, light it up. He gave the Bucks some pretty interesting minutes last night. My notes on Gallinari say that Doc went with Gallinari instead of Crowder. He gave the Bucks 4 points and 6 rebounds, nothing crazy, but it was different for me because of his size.
Yep.
So Gallinari being 6'10" versus Crowder being 6'6", I think that helped make a difference. Now, the Pacers only shot 6 shots against Gallinari, and they made 4. But if you look at, across the board, it's just they weren't getting a lot of shots up against him. Is really how I look at it, because he has good size. And I think if we're talking about a guy like Pascal Siakam shot 1 for 2 against Gallinari in 2 minutes and 7 seconds of Gallinari guarding Siakam. I think that does potentially help the Bucks. Gallinari is not known for being a good defender, but just by having more size and the way that the Bucks were scrambling around as a team last night, which is one of the things that I'm going to get to after I let Jake give his notes. But the way that they were doing all of those things, it's really cool that Gallinari was able to make a defensive impact just by simply being bigger.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, he's just another guy who has 5-6 fouls that you can just waste and just wear down Siakam. He's a little bit bigger than Siakam, so put your body on him, make him tired, make him work, and that's all I wanted him to do last night. As I'm watching this game, and the first quarter was a little tough at times, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just telling him, I kept talking to him like I was coaching him, right? I'm like, all right, let's go get a stop. All right, grab the rebound. All right, let's go get a good shot, boys. And you just keep chopping away. And that's what they did. And the Bucks, for the most part, in my opinion, now I'm no professional, but I think I've watched enough basketball to understand this. This goes back to my point I made about Game 3, is the Bucks controlled the pace after the first quarter. They absolutely controlled the pace. They got into their sets. They got good shots. And you know what? We've talked about this before, but isn't it harder to run when they're taking the ball out of the net all the time? Weird how that works, right? Well, the Bucks are doing a good job. Chris Middleton was just – I'm going to be honest. You know this. I was a hater. That's right. You know what? I came around, and I appreciate Chris Middleton a whole bunch. And just like I feel about the Packers, if they would add Bakhtiari in 2020, I think they win the Super Bowl. If the Bucks have Chris Middleton in 2022, I think they're winning the title. I really believe that. I mean, Giannis had one of the best playoff series of all time against the Celtics.
Dude, and that was where, like, every time people are like, we shouldn't have traded Drew, I'm like, that was where we needed him the absolute most.
Yeah. That was kind of where the nail started to get hit in, I guess I'll say. And then last year when Jimmy Butler was just kind of dragging him around the court, it was kind of like, the nail's in. Yeah. Sorry, Wes. I came around. I learned from my mistakes. That's what life was about, right?
He had me being a dick about it for 4 years, so that helps too.
Yeah. But Chris, 29, 12, and 5. I mean, what more can you ask from the guy? Some very timely three-pointers, and Bobby Portis was cooking. Yeah. Now, we have to give a shout-out to my favorite play of the game now, and probably the player of the game, in my opinion, underrated performer, Pat Bev.
Oh, yeah.
Pat Bev with 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 12 assists. Bro, when he hit the too small with the hand on the hip, I said, not the hand on the hip, bro.
That was awesome. I loved it. Dude, if he's feeling himself, do what you want, man. Obviously, just
that's just like, there's like, see you too small, and then like the little, I'm a little teacup, pour me out, hand on the hip. I mean, come on now. That's just, he's doing the most right there. But he had a great game, 1 for 2 from 3. He doesn't have to shoot a lot, but if he just makes a couple, and he does a really good job, I think that's what I found out was most underrated about him, is he attacks the closeout at such a high level. He attacks the closeout, gets to the teeth of the defense, breaks them down, and you know what? If he doesn't have anything, he circles around. He actually did that last night.
With that thought in mind of attacking the closeouts, I think and this happens too, when they're running like the dribble handoff screens and just like coming just off the ball towards the top of the key, and then he's going towards the basket. I think he's got a really great sense of using angles.
Yeah.
The way that he can get his outside shoulder to the inside shoulder of his defender, that basically means that they're kind of like step in step, and he knows that he's going to be able to either get to his right hand to have a layup chance, or the next defender from the corner is going to step up towards him, and he's going to have a kick wide open to the corner, which he did several times last night.
Yes, he did. He was doing a great job facilitating. And, I think if we don't have Dame, and me and you were talking about this last night, I think that's where they missed Dame, with the full court press that Indiana's playing. I think they have to let Pat bring it up, to be completely honest with you.
He's our backup point guard right now, Pat Connaughton.
Right.
He's our backup point guard right now.
I know that Chris is capable of doing it, but I'm not saying that Chris can't do it, but I'm trying to, preserve some of his energy because we need him to make shots, right? Yep. So let Pat bring the ball up, let him waste his energy doing that, let him compete on defense. He'll give you timely buckets. He's obviously not afraid to shoot. He's not afraid to go mix it up with the big boys. So that's what I love about Pat Bev. He's another guy, dude, that we love Pat Connaughton because he's not afraid to do the dirty work. We love Bobby Portis because he hustles. He's not afraid to do the dirty work. And you know what? Pat Bev is the same exact way, dude. Those are probably my favorite players. Like, I love the superstars. I love Giannis. Like, that's great and all. Like, he's awesome. Like, I'm never going to get another Giannis for the Bucks probably in my entire life. But, dude, the guys that just go to work and just do the dirty work, they mix it up, they do it all, those are my favorite, dude, because I feel like if I was in the NBA, I would want to be one of those guys.
Yeah, and so looking at last night's game, now you've already mentioned a handful of guys. Andrew and Reggie both said the Mohawk helped inspire the women, that the Battle Hawk is awesome. With Gallinari, the other thing that I was going to say when we were talking about him, and you mentioned he's just another guy with 5 or 6 fouls to give. The other thing is that he's another guy with playoff experience.
Yep.
People are clamoring for Ajax and Marjan to get in these games, but having a guy who's got playoff experience and understands, what the officials are going to call, what they're not going to call, what you can get away with, what other teams are going to do that they know that they can get away with or try to get away with. Having a guy who's been there, done that, not to mention familiarity with the coach helps, but, being 6'10" on top of it. James said something about Al Horford that reminded me of something that Patrick Beverley did last night too. He said, what you said reminded me of Horford. Every time the ball goes out of bounds, he hurries up and throws it to the ref, tries to get the ref to hurry up and give it to him every time. Hilarious, no waiting. That's exactly what Patrick Beverley was trying to do last night. Obi Toppin caught the ball, stepped on the outside of the out of bounds, that's the word, the out of bounds line, and was kind of just like standing there confused, like, oh, did I step out? And Beverly's like, give me the ball. Like, we want to go and get into our offense. And Toppin got salty about it and pushed Beverly into the bench. And that's how you get technicals.
That's how you let teams go on big runs too. I mean, that's just a young guy making a stupid mistake on a young team led by a young superstar point guard. And the thing is Carlisle was trying to protect some of his guys. I mean, even Siakam, when he was angry late in the game, he just pulled him out. He said, no, didn't even look at him. That's the leadership of Rick Carlisle for the Indiana Pacers. They kind of need it, honestly.
I respect Rick Carlisle, to be honest.
I do. I respect Rick Carlisle too. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a little underrated in my opinion. But to have all this talent and then try to, construct it in the right way is hard for him. So I'm hoping that they just keep imploding from the inside. That would be good for us.
Yeah. And we've talked about it. The Pacers aren't going to go away, A, in this series, and B, in general. They're a young team. Yep. They're kind of a young, plucky, up-and-coming team. So regardless of what happened, Michael said Bucks in 7. Whatever happens in this series, the Pacers aren't going away, whether the Bucks advance or whether the Pacers advance. So it's not going to be something like this isn't a last dance for either one of these teams, to be honest with you.
No.
So the Bucks, this is probably my biggest takeaway from last night, is that the Bucks went into a switch everything mode last night. They really briefly went into a zone, and the Pacers hit a 3, and they're like, all right, okay, that's not going to work. We're not going to do that anymore. Yeah. But after that, the Bucks, and even in parts of the second quarter as well, but mostly in the second half, they switched everything. Literally everything. They didn't care if Brook ended up on Halliburton, if Middleton ended up on Turner. They started them in those positions at points. What's up, Brett? They started them in those positions at some points. They had Brook Lopez guarding Nesmith. They switched everything up, and the Pacers were like, where do we go with the ball?
Dude, Turner does not want to be in the post. He doesn't want to be in the post. He looks uncomfortable down there.
So looking at Pascal Siakam was 0 for 2 against Beverly, 1 for 2 against Gallinari, 0 for 1 against Ajax, 0 for 1 against Brook Lopez, 0 for 2 against Chris, and 1 for 2 against Bobby. From the field.
Nice.
Now I want to look at Miles Turner. Miles Turner was 1 for 3 against Pat Connaughton.
He plays no defense.
No, nothing. You know what? At this point, I'm just gonna look through what the Pacers shot against Pat Connaughton, because there is a site for that. Nesmith was 0 for 1. Siakam was 1 for 1. Turner was 1 for 3. Nembhard was 3 for 3 and a turnover. Obi Toppin was 0 for 2. Shepard was 0 for 1. And TJ McConnell was 2 for 3. And Isaiah Jackson was 1 for 1 in 24 seconds. So, looking at it, the Pacers overall didn't shoot well. And this is my thing, too. People complain about Pat Connaughton all the time. They're like, oh, he just runs past people on the three-point line. 2 things with that. 1, he literally blocked a three-point shot to end the third quarter last night. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
2, you want to take a stab at what percent the Pacers shot against Pat Connaughton on threes last night?
0%.
0. Pacers were 0 for 5 shooting threes against Pat Connaughton last night.
And every time that I have, done math, 2 points is less than 3 points. So running somebody off the 3-point line could be an effective strategy. But, I don't know anything.
It's a lot easier to talk shit when you don't know ball. But,
yeah,
ignorance. If you want to have these discussions, we can, I can recommend a podcast for you.
Actually,
okay. Moving past that. Now, I promised in our group chat that I would have some quarter-by-quarter numbers.
Yep.
So, first quarter was Chris's quarter. 10 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist. Second quarter was Beverly's quarter. He had 12 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist. He scored 7 straight points at one point.
Mm-hmm.
The third quarter belonged to Bobby, Bees, and Beverly. So the three Bs. Bobby had 10 points and 4 rebounds in the third quarter alone. Beasley hit back-to-back threes that put the Bucks up 19 points. And Beverly had 6 of his 10 assists in the third quarter. So Beverly scored a bunch in the second quarter and then was like, all right, now everybody's looking at me offensively, and now I'm going to create for my teammates. That was fantastic work by Patrick Beverly.
Yes.
And in the fourth quarter, the Malik Beasley was back again. 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in the fourth quarter for Malik Beasley. And at one point, he had 5 of the Bucks' first 7 points in the fourth quarter.
So I just got to give a shout out to Chris. Malik Beasley comes in the game, shoots a wide open 3, misses it. And the first comment I see, and I went on Twitter too, the first comment I see is, why is Beasley in the game? What is Doc Rivers doing? These playoff rotations are terrible. He literally comes down and plays good defense. Comes back a couple of possessions later, hits a 3-pointer. I'm like, oh. And then, you know what he did the next offensive possession? Hit another one. Oh, you know, the key to life is patience, people. Patience. Patience to get what you want to get. Patience to let the teams and the players decide the game. He played really good defense, and I was giving him credit for that. He was trying his ass off. He ended up on Turner a few times. He ended up on Siakam a few times in the paint, and he was just giving everything he had. And then he came down and he stretched the floor for us, just like what the Pacers were doing to us the game before, getting defensive stops and hitting threes, and that can just be a backbreaker. Beasley did it back-to-back possessions. So just be patient, okay?
Yeah, I feel you. Okay. Now, in those second, third, fourth quarters, Chris Middleton was just getting buckets everywhere in between. Obviously, he finished with 29 points. Mm-hmm. Malik Beasley had 18 points. He scored all of them in the second half. All 18 of his points came in the second half. Yep. Bobby obviously had the 29 points as well. Now, looking at the Pacers. So I mentioned the Bucks were doing all their switching on defense and not really caring what the matchups ended up being. The Pacers only scored 61 points in the second, third, and fourth quarter.
Yep.
That's nuts. Andrew said Malik Beasley is a baller. I put him on the win graphic as Malik Beasley because he was 4 for 6 from 3 last night. Now, the Pacers 0-20 now when they don't score 83 points after the third quarter. They were 0-19 going into last night. They're now 0 for 20 if they don't hit 83 points by the fourth quarter. They didn't hit 83 points until there was 4 minutes and 8 seconds left in the game.
What kind of stat is that?
We got it from Bally, and then I updated it after the game was over.
That's incredible.
And then I went and found out what timestamp the Pacers got their 83rd point at last night.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Okay. And then Pat Connaughton was the last guy that I wanted to talk about. So like I said, when you were talking about Pat and the other Pat, the Pats together became the underrated performers from last night. Pat Connaughton essentially, when Dame is out, playing as the backup point guard. What's up, Taylor? Beverly starting at point guard, Pat Connaughton essentially being our backup point guard, which just goes to your point that he does everything that the Bucks need him to. Mm-hmm. He can defend. He can score. Taylor said my favorite people and Jake. He can defend. He can score. Handle the ball. He was, honestly, I was really impressed with after he was scoring. So he scored 9 efficient points, hit a 3, got to the rim, and he was slinging good passes last night. Mm-hmm. He had 9 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Oh, Andrew's got your back, Jake.
Hey, finally.
Pat Connaughton really just kind of like a Swiss Army knife, really.
Yeah.
And you need players like that. You need players like Pat Connaughton. Every team needs a guy like that. So having a guy who can give you a little bit of everything, it's a necessary thing. People need to seriously look beyond the scoring. And I will say, I am glad collectively that Bucks fans are pretty, after last night, they're pretty supportive of Danilo Gallinari's minutes last night, even though he only scored 4 points. So that I will give credit to Bucks fans. Do the same with Pat Connaughton. There's more to the NBA. There's more to basketball than just scoring. There's a video of Bradley Beal when he's talking at a camp for kids, and he's talking to them. He's like, I don't give a shit if you can score. When you get to the NBA, everybody can score. What can you do besides scoring that can impact a game? That's how you get to the NBA. That's how you stay in the NBA. So Pat Connaughton is one of those guys that does more than just scoring. Brett said he loved last night. I knew Beasley would have a killer game. He's getting his hot touch. Beasley on fire. And what Chris said on the betting. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm not going to talk about it because that's for tomorrow. He loved Bobby. I knew he'd redeem himself for the team. Also with Pat. And yeah, Patrick Beverley was awesome. We talked about the angles. Brett said, I loved how people laughed at me for the thought of the Bucks coming back. Hey, it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
There have been teams to come back from 3-1. I mean, the Cavs literally did it in the finals.
Yeah, against the 73 win team. So
exactly. So it's not over until they're literally the horn buzzes on the fourth game of the win for a series.
So I just want to have a discussion real quick.
Okay.
And I think you'll appreciate this. Brett, you'll appreciate this too about people laughing at you. So I saw this reel the other day, and this guy posted talking about Jamal Murray. And he said 20 years from now, kids are going to look up Jamal Murray, and they're gonna see all these pictures of him hitting game winners over LeBron James, and they're going to see that he doesn't have any All-Stars, no MVPs, but they're going to hear all the old heads, which is going to be our generation, saying he was a dog, right? And
I fucking love Jamal Murray, dude. I love Jamal Murray so much.
And he is a dog. In the playoffs, he turns up, right?
I love Jamal Murray.
And, I commented on there, and I said, to a lesser extent, I feel the same way about Chris Middleton. In the playoffs, he raises his game. He's a mid-range sniper, and he just gets tough buckets. And a lot of people reacted to that comment. And I'm like, it's really not that far off. And then today,
I don't think it is.
Today, I found this. You'll love this. It was NBA University. It's a great account if you ever get a chance to follow. They share a lot of cool stats about the NBA. Just learn the game a little bit more, right? Chris Middleton shot 58.5% in the mid-range this season. 6% better than Michael Porter Jr., second place, and 7% better than KD, third place. Now over 60% from mid-range in the playoffs. Dude was built to get tough buckets against tough defense. And I'm like, I just said that like 48 hours ago, bro. And this guy knows ball. You don't make an account called NBA University without knowing a little bit about basketball.
Yeah.
But, man, we got to put some respect on Chris. Now, if we get an 80% Giannis or an 80% Dame, just saying, we got a good chance.
So I'm going to go, and this is courtesy of Christopher Wilson in our group chat that we have for the show for the back room. He has reported for the stat heads like himself and for me, because he knows that I love stats and I know that he loves stats. So now he's sharing stats with me. Chris Middleton is having the second biggest scoring leap from the regular season to the playoffs ever.
Ever?
That's what he said. Only behind Donovan Mitchell.
Shut your mouth. That's insane.
So to a point, this doesn't surprise me. It doesn't, because I've been on the Chris Middleton trade since like 2017.
Yep.
But it doesn't shock me that he's elevated his game. It doesn't. He said if Mitchell is Spida, what does that make Middleton? Cash. Makes him cash. He's a walking bucket is what Chris Middleton is.
I was going to call him Bucket Man.
Bucket Man?
Cash is better, though. That is his real name.
But it is, and it fits. Cash with a KH. He's Cash. He's a walking bucket. And last night, he even banked in a 3, gave us the Jordan shrug. I mean, bro, he did everything.
He did.
And the last thing that I want to say of Chris Middleton, and this can be how I end my Game 5 discussion, there was a possession, and I will try to find this and clip it. About 5 minutes left in the game. The Bucks are up by 16 or 18, I believe, at this point. Actually, I think it was 18 because then the Bucks were pushing it back to 20. So Patrick Beverley is bringing the ball up the floor. Middleton tells everybody else to clear out. Middleton goes and sets a screen for Beverley. Ball goes back to Middleton, and he gets a layup out of it. Middleton just out here just directing traffic, and it leads to him getting a layup. I'm just like, dude, he is on another planet when it comes to how this series is going.
I remember that play pretty vividly. Middleton was wide open then. And he got a left-handed layup off that.
A left-handed layup, exactly.
I remember.
Like he seriously just directed all of the traffic,
Mm-hmm.
pointed where everybody needed to go, started the play with the screen, and then went and got the layup. I'm gonna see if I can find it and just share it quick because seriously, it was impressive.
Wide open.
It was 100% wide open.
So, man, I'm ready for tomorrow already. I'm already looking forward to tomorrow night already. All day I've been thinking about it. I can't get it out of my head, man.
Okay. Oh, it's out of a timeout. It's out of a timeout. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to share this on here so we can see it. I'm on the wrong thing. Okay. So, ball gets inbounded to Beverly. Now watch Chris Middleton. He's pointing for Beasley to get out of the corner, pointing Beverly where to go, sets the screen for him. Dude, just Chris Middleton just out here directing traffic, getting everybody to where they need to go.
Bro, what a screen, too. O'Connell didn't even fight at all, dude. He acts like come on, man. I mean,
this is like next level basketball IQ. Like he's telling everybody where to go. Like Chris Middleton is just like looking at Doc Rivers like I'm the captain now.
I don't even know who number 5 on the Pacers is, but he stood no chance right there.
That's just fantastic, dude.
James, I hope the Heat take one more. I know you're gonna win, but I hope the Heat take one more. I don't think they have another 24 3-pointer night in them though.
Yeah, especially not without Jaquez and someone else isn't playing either.
Yeah, the Heat are done.
Yeah.
Just go enjoy your beach that you live on.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to say on the Bucks?
Let's go take one in Indiana, huh?
Yeah. Not over till it's over. So win and get back home.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to switch into baseball now. I got more than a handful of baseball games. James says he sees Horford in that play, directing traffic, not so much setting the screen, but he does direct traffic. And that's one of the reasons the Celtics keep him around. He's a high IQ player.
Yeah, Horford. I cannot wait for Horford to retire.
No, he's just going to go from a jersey to a polo, and he's going to be on the bench anyways.
He is a very smart player, so I could see him being a coach.
Yeah. Okay. So going into the Brewers, Jake, give me your power pair and underrated performer.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to go to power pair and underrated performer first. So let me go to that page. Okay. So I didn't get to update with today's stats. So this is going into today. But my power pair, my power hitter, I went with Gary Sanchez. 5 of 14, 4 runs, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. 2 massive home runs, by the way.
Yep.
1 walk, 2 hit by pitches, and 3 strikeouts. So he made his at-bats worth it, right?
Yep.
That's a 357 average, a 471 on base percentage, a 929 slug, which is what he was brought here for, and a 1.399 OPS, which is bonkers.
Got a 5-game hitting streak.
And a 5-game hitting streak. My pitcher, I went with Jared Koenig. 3 games, 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. He had 2 wins in those 3 games. So Jared Koenig giving us some good innings of baseball. My underrated performer, I went with Joey Ortiz.
Great pick.
5 of 21, 1 run, 3 doubles, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. So getting on base a bunch. a 238 average, a 368 on-base percentage, a 433 slug, and an 802 OPS. And by the way, just want to remind people, he's playing a brand new position on defense, so give him credit for that as well.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And James said baseball, this is relevant to both of us. F the Yankees, seriously. Yeah, we'll get to that because there's a lot to digest when it comes to the Brewers this week, especially their 6 home games.
Yeah.
But I went with William Contreras. I got the low-hanging fruit this week. So William Contreras was 11 for 31 over the last week. My stats do include today. So I have that. He was 354 batting average, and William Contreras now has a 10-game on-base streak. So he's been on base for 10 straight games. For my power pitcher, I love that. I love being right, honestly. I mean, it's cool when I get to be right. Firstly about, Brian Hudson, who's my power pitcher. And I'm going to be right again when I get to my underrated performer. But my power pitcher is Brian Hudson. He made 4 appearances in the last week, including today. He pitched 5 2/3 innings in those 4 appearances, gave up 2 hits and 3 walks with 7 strikeouts. He literally had more strikeouts than hits and walks put together. His ERA in the last 4 appearances that he's made is down 16 points from 0.68 to 0.52.
I like that.
And I'm super happy about it because I've been talking about Brian Hudson since the first series of the year.
You have.
And he's been nothing but a monster since. Nothing gets by Brian Hudson. He's been fantastic. And then I get to be right again because I had just written an article over the weekend about it's time for Tyler Black. And lo and behold, yesterday Tyler Black gets called up and immediately starts producing. So he was 3 for 7 in his first 2 games, the 429 batting average, 429 on base, 718 slug, and an 1143 OPS in his first 2 games as a Major League Brewer. And as we get into today's game, he showed off some demon speed today. Oh my God, was he flying around the bases today.
Dude, the Brewers are already fast. So to add that to our team is insanity.
And I had this conversation with people. People were like, oh, it's not. James said, stop calling up all of our good players from Nashville.
No, we need them now.
Next.
Yeah, right?
Okay. So, and we'll get to Tyler Black. But like people kept saying he's not an MLB player because he doesn't have good enough defense at first base. He's not a great first baseman yet. But he's working hard to improve. He's a decent first baseman. And any difference in defensively between, say, him and Jake Bauers at first base defensively is more than made up by the way he's going to produce on offense. So we can get into the
real quick.
What's that?
Can I piggyback off you real quick?
Sure.
Because I just want to make a point real quick. All successful business people, all successful entrepreneurs, they all love the word yet. So I want to point out that Tyler said the word yet. There's always opportunity. And Tyler Black has shown nothing short of being tremendous with the bat, stealing bases, and being able to switch positions and learn a new position. That takes a level of mental toughness in its own right. So give him time to be great on defense at first base because he's not there yet. He's going to be great, though. I am very excited for him as well.
He came up as a second baseman, started playing a lot of third base, and then was also learning first base.
So give him time, man. The kid loves ball, man. Let's just let him play.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to the Pirates series, starting with last Wednesday. The Brewers had 2 more games against the Pirates. They started down 0-2, came back and worked it to split the series in Pittsburgh. So they still didn't lose a second series there. But what stood out to you from the third game against the Pirates?
Yeah, we got a lot of baseball to talk about, buddy. So let's get into it, right? So the Brewers won this game 3-2. This was a bullpen day. They used Wilson, Hudson, Peguero, Trevor McGill, and Joel Payamps. Wilson did his job, in my opinion. He gave up 2 earned runs in 4 1/3 inning. But after that, Hudson, Peguero, Trevor McGill, I don't know why I say his full name every time, but I do.
Because he has a brother that's also in Major League Baseball.
That works. And Joel Payamps, they gave up a combined 1 hit, 1 walk, and they had 5 strikeouts. They also only threw they threw for 4 2/3 innings, covering Bryce Wilson in 61 pitches. I feel like that's like when I was looking at this and I'm writing down my notes and I'm like, dude, that's like super fucking efficient, dude.
Yeah.
22 from Hudson, 12 from Piguero, 16 from McGill, and 11 from Piamps. And I'm just like, that's lockdown. That is lockdown.
Yep.
And we're going to give some shout outs to some batters now. Hoskins and Perkins with some 2-out RBIs. Hoskins up to 15, Perkins up to 7, and Contreras just got a regular RBI. Still cool, though. 21 for him. So Contreras singled to center, which scored Frelick on the top of the third. Hoskins was hit by a pitch that scored Terang, and Perkins walked, which scored Contreras. So, I mean, having people on base works, right? You can get hit by a pitch, you can walk, and they can score. I mean, that's kind of.
I said that, Michael. Michael, if you're still in here watching, I said that. I know I said that like week 2.
You did. I mean, it's just weird how that happens. Brewers are 2 for 6 of runners in scoring position, but I'm still mind boggled by 61 pitches and 4 2/3. That's so efficient, dude. It's crazy. And it's like, if a starter does that, you're like, wow, man, he's really moving. Like, the fact that it was like 4 different humans combining for that makes it more impressive to me personally.
I mean, it's you're talking like about 12 pitches an inning.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy.
Which if a starter did that, you'd throw a complete game at 108 pitches, approximately.
Right?
Like, I'm down.
Yeah. For real.
It could have happened for Freddie, but we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. Or we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We can cross the bridge first, not whatever. But the Pirates also went with a bullpen game in this game, and it got ugly for him in the 3rd inning. The Brewers, Sal Frelick again, his speed causing problems for opposing defenses, reached on an error. Bryce Terang had a 1-on walk. William Contreras hit a single, made the game 1-0. That brought Bryce Terang to 3rd. Willie Adames got hit by a pitch, and Rhys Hoskins with 2 outs got hit by a pitch, and Blake Perkins walked, and just tons and tons and tons of traffic, like Jake said, led to a 3-run inning. And again, with Sal Frelick, he forces teams to speed up their process. So it's not so much that Sal Frelick is just beating out all these balls that he shouldn't. It's that he's forcing them to rush, which causes mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
That puts pressure on opposing teams. It does. Bryce Terang is the same way. Blake Perkins is the same way. Tyler Black is going to be a player cut of that same cloth, that his speed is going to put pressure on opposing teams' defenses, and it's going to make them make mistakes when they're rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I would prefer hits reaching on errors, but the thing is that like a guy like Sal Frelick is a factor on every single play. And he's a threat to be on base every single time, even if he hits a ball on the ground right at one of your fielders. Now, I want to give credit to Blake Perkins. He saw a ton of pitches outside the zone. He was very patient, drew himself 3 walks in this game. So I wanted to give Blake Perkins credit because I'm positive that if you're drawing a second walk in the game, you're like, all right, I want some pitches to hit. Like, I want to swing the bat. And Blake Perkins, to his credit, stayed patient. And then William Contreras just keeps hitting the ball and hitting the ball hard. He was 3 for 4 in this game, had 2 exit velocities of 106 and 106.7 and 103.8.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I posted this after one of his home runs earlier this year that he had like an exit velocity on a home run that was like 114 miles an hour. And some people are like, I don't know what exit velocity means, why it's important, why people care about it. To me, it's just you're seeing the ball well and hitting it hard.
Mm-hmm.
You are putting your eyes to the sweet spot on the bat and then putting that part of the bat on the ball and hitting it, like they would say, on the screws.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people that commented on that post was asking, why are people just starting to care about it? Because Major League Baseball has only been tracking it since 2015. That's why nobody cared about it before then. So I'm going to continue referencing it because, like I said, see the ball, put the sweet spot of the bat on the ball. If you're hitting the ball hard, that to me says that you're seeing the ball well, you're identifying pitches well. So I'm going to continue talking about exit velocity. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to carry that right into game 4 against the Pirates because Oliver Dunn did not have a hit in this game, but he was smacking the ball. His 3 exit velocities on 3 of his outs, 101.7, 98.3, and 102.4. If you're hitting the ball hard, like I said, it tells me that you're seeing the ball well. I'm not going to say that I'm going to take that, like hard hit outs over soft hits, but that's just one of those things where, like, over the course of the season, those things are going to even out. Because you're going to have plenty of hard hits that don't go right at somebody, or say they go just over a fielder's head and then they roll all the way into the gap because they were smoked. And those are going to be doubles for guys like that. Or you're going to pull a hard hit ball and it's going to be past a diving first baseman or third baseman and it's going to be a double. Like, things like that are going to happen just as often, if not probably more often, than you're going to get like a 69-mile-an-hour exit velocity bloop duck fart that falls in front of a fielder in the outfield for a single. So I would take a ball or a guy that's going to hit the ball hard often versus a guy who's going to get essentially lucky sometimes. Now, this is a game. This is the game that William Contreras hit the 448-foot, 114.4 mile an hour exit velocity home run. Just a rocket. Absolute rocket. That was the hardest home run of his career and his second hardest hit ever for William Contreras.
Wow, that's impressive.
He is, like, speaking to people on another planet, William Contreras is completely on another planet right now.
Yeah, he is.
He absolutely 100%, and I know it's May 1st, but should be currently in the MVP conversation.
I agree. I mean, they track hit, so why not put him in the graphic for it? You know what I'm saying?
William Contreras also had a single in the 5th inning that was 108.4 miles an hour off the bat. So he's mashing. Now, I will give credit to the Pirates. Mitch Keller is a very good starter, but the Brewers made him work. He, through 4 innings, had 76 pitches already. So the Brewers are making him work. There were 5 lead changes in this game, and this is also one of the games that made Gary Sanchez Jake's Power Pair Player of the Week.
It is.
Put him in a clutch situation, and he hits a 2-run bomb off of a Roldis Chapman. That's a hard thing to do. But he hit an opposite field 104.2 mile an hour off the bat. And here's the thing. Because Jake and I are the way that we are, and we advocated for the patience on a guy like Gary Sanchez because people were complaining about him after about 10 games, your praise should be equal to the hate that you give. When production is equal to the slump. So Gary Sanchez comes in a clutch situation, puts a 2-run bomb that gives you a lead in a game. It makes up for some tough stretches at the plate when the team is still winning. That's the patience you have to have. And Jake and I had this conversation with people that we saw on Sunday at the Cardboard Legacy event. We've had this conversation on this show tons of time. I've had this conversation with people in life. Baseball, you have to be patient with the ups and downs. You cannot treat it like a football season where every game is 10% of your season compared to what it is in Major League Baseball. You just cannot have that same mindset game to game in baseball that you have in a football season. There are 10 times as many games being played in baseball. You have to be patient with people. Essentially, one game in Major League Baseball is equal. I did the math last year. It was like it's equal to like 4.5 minutes of an NFL game.
I mean, think about it. There's 17 games in an NFL season. Sometimes these baseball players, they play 20 straight days.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think the Brewers are in like a 25 games in 29 days stretch, something like that.
Yeah, because they have off tomorrow. But then they start a series against the Cubs. But
yeah. Let's start with Game 4 against the Pirates.
Yeah, so shout out to the bullpen again, man, giving us 4 in a third inning. So if you combined the last 2 games at this point, they would have 9 innings of scoreless baseball. Love that. Also love Contreras, Bauer, Hoskins, Sanchez, and Dunn. They all had RBIs. So in terms of RBIs, in the top of the third, Frelick scored on a Bauer single to right that made the game 3-2. Contreras scored on a Hoskins single in the top of the third, made the game 3-3. So the Brewers fought back, tied this game up, right? We get to the top of the fifth. Game is 4-3. Contreras scores again off another Hoskins hit. This one a double to left field. And then we get to the 8th inning. 2 outs, 0-2 count. You're losing, and it's a 102-mile-an-hour sinker coming at you. And Gary Sanchez says, sayonara. That was grown man strength.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
If you're looking at something and you're like, why is this guy here? There it is. That is literally exactly why he's here. He is here to hit home runs off left-handed pitching. That is what he's here for. Yep. Point blank, period.
And just the absolute monster shot. Like I said, Sanchez and Perkins scored on that one. It was Sanchez with the homer. But absolute massive home run. And in the top of the 9th, the Brewers tacked on an insurance run, making it 7-5, which ended up being the final score. Adames scored on a Dunn single. Dunn was 1 for 5 on the day. Single to right. So, I mean, all the way around, Contreras mashed a homer in the first. Perkins and Sanchez scored off that homer from Sanchez in the 8th. I mean, the Brewers showing the power, showing the ability to play some small ball. But man, that ball was crushed. Bill. I agree with that. But
Bill said, I think all the way around, man. Plate before the ball landed.
So one last quick shout out: the Brewers were 7 for 20 runners in scoring position. Rhys Hoskins was 3 for 4 in those situations. So he had 3 of the 7 hits with runners in scoring position. So shout out to him. Another reason he's brought here is to hit with runners in scoring position, right? Something we struggle in, and he's good at it.
Yeah. Okay. So we can go to Yankees game 1. This was, and we both predicted last week we were looking for the Brewers to take 1 out of 3 against the Yankees because of how well they're playing right now. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. So, we can throw that out there. What stood out to you from Brewers and Yankees game 1?
Well, I mean, we can't have this discussion without talking about Joey Ortiz, right?
Definitely.
I mean, the guy was absolutely a baller. First career home run. Had 4 RBIs in the day. He's up to 7 on the season now. Perkins with a pair of 2-out RBIs. He's up to 9. Adames is up to 12. Let's talk about the scoring here, right? So Turang and Ortiz scored off Ortiz's first career home run in the bottom of the 2nd, which tied the game at 2. Electric moment. Milwaukee was bumping. Ortiz was hyped. The team was hyped. That was awesome. 406-footer to left field. So not a cheap one. He hit it over 400 for the first one. So not a cheap one. I like that. Hoskins scored off of Perkins. Home run to right center. 391 feet in the bottom of the 3rd. That made the score 4-2. So the Brewers are humming. The offense is working. The pitching is holding them down, right? And then Sanchez ends up scoring off an Ortiz sac fly, tying the game at 5-5 in the bottom of the 6th. This game was back and forth all day. Then you get to the bottom of the 10th. The Yankees had the lead, and Contreras scores off an Adames single to tie the game again. So this game was absolutely fun to watch. Then you get to the bottom of the 11th. Miller scores off an Ortiz single to left for his 4th RBI, and he just calls ball game, man. And another scoreless outing from the bullpen. They had 2, 3, 4, 5 more innings added, 3 walks, 2 hits, and 4 Ks. The bullpen balling 3 days in a row.
Let me tack onto that, and this can partly go to Colin Ray's credit, but the 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning, Colin Ray twice, Hobie Milner and Elvis Peguero recorded 4 straight 1-2-3 innings against this Yankees team, which, looking at what they did on Saturday and Sunday, that looks super impressive. Yes. To have 4 straight 1-2-3 innings against this team.
Yes, it does.
Now, you mentioned Ortiz, his first career home run, first career walk-off hit. The single that he had, the walk-off single, 109.4 miles an hour off the bat.
Ripped it.
Smoked it. He was ready for it, ready for the moment. Like I said, pressure it's a perceived thing.
Yep.
Some guys, if you're a good hitter, you're going to hit well in any situation.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing from Joey Ortiz. We're seeing him play well in multiple situations, which, again, with some patience, because we're in a very small sample size when you consider the fact the Brewers are 30 games into the season. We're not even a fifth of the way into the year yet. We're not even at 20% yet.
Yep.
That's where we're at. So there's a little bit of patience that needs to be there. But through 20 games, 30 games, I'm okay. I'm excited for where Joey Ortiz is at because you assume that as players get older, they get better.
Yep.
So I'm really excited for what Joey Ortiz can bring.
I agree.
So the Brewers ended up winning this game 7-6. There were 13 runs scored. 5 of them scored with 2 outs by both teams.
Yep.
And then Blake Perkins. I'm going to go back to Blake Perkins again because I keep doing this because people keep asking, where's Yelich? Where's Yelich? Where's Yelich? They don't have to rush Yelich because of how well Perkins is playing. You don't have to rush Yelich because Blake Perkins is playing so well.
I think people need to take a really hard look in the mirror and realize where the Milwaukee Bucks are, where their superstars are sidelined right now because they were playing through nagging injuries the entire year. And then take that same mindset and focus it on the Brewers when our superstar is on the bench right now. We don't need him forcing it right now. Right now, especially. Let him get fully healthy. Let him come back, and we'll go from there.
And he's super close at this point, too.
Yeah.
Like he's only a week past of where he was even eligible to come off the injured list.
Yep.
And over the weekend, he was running. On Sunday, he was batting. And then Monday, he was throwing. So at this point, they're like, this is where he would have come back in previous seasons. Like on Monday, it was like, this is where I would come back in previous seasons. But they're taking it a couple extra cautious days. And back injuries is one of those nagging things. And you are welcome, Bill. It's hard to explain the Yelich situation to people. Why rush him back if your team is playing above expectations with his replacement?
Because people want to see the best players. I don't know.
And that's fair. I get that. And I get people are going to do he's being played $27 million this year. He should be out in the field. He's not going to give you $30 million worth of performance if you keep rushing him back from an injury.
I would take, honest to God, and I'm going to say this out loud, I don't care. I would take 3 great months from Yelich over, a season of up and down.
So let me just kind of quantify this to how you're saying. Like, let's say Yelich plays 120 games. If he plays 120 games at a 290 batting average and a 380 on base percentage and has a 20 home run, 30 steal season, are you really going to be like, oh, I can't believe he couldn't play the other 42 games?
Yeah, he missed that Yankee series back in April. We would have won that series. I don't care. I'm not thinking about that anymore.
No, and that's the thing. And like I said, this Yankee series, and I'll be point blank honest with you, I was busy all day Saturday, so I don't have notes for game 2 because I didn't get a chance to go back and watch it because obviously Sunday we were at the Oshkosh show, so I didn't have a chance to watch game 2 of this series, but I know obviously this is the rough one. But looking at this Yankee series as a whole, it's the second series they've lost the entire season. They've lost 2 series the whole year so far.
I mean, there really isn't many notes to take away from this one, to be completely honest with you.
I mean, just throw what you got out there, and then we'll talk about game 3, because then we got a lot to talk about with game 3.
Okay, so I'll start here. Sanchez, Hoskins, and Ortiz with RBIs. Sanchez up to 6 now on the year. Hoskins with a 2-out RBI. He's up to 18. He also had a homer, his 6th of the season. Ortiz is up to 8 RBIs. And Hoskins had a solo home run in the bottom of the first inning. And the thing that I took away from this is I went to the at-bat and I went through all the pitches he saw. And he hit the home run off a 4-seam fastball, 95 miles per hour. It was the 5th 4-seam fastball he saw in the at-bat. The 5th one.
Sheesh.
The pitch before, he fouled off a fastball. And the ball just creeped a little bit inside. And he said, bye-bye. So I just thought that was really interesting that the pitcher didn't change the pitch and he threw it more inside. Like, hey, try to hit this one down the middle. 95. So I just thought that was interesting. Bowers scored off a Sanchez double to center in the bottom of the 9th, and Sanchez scored off an Ortiz double to left in the bottom of the 9th to give the Brewers 3. But the Yankees offense, which we said last week, is on fire.
Yeah,
they
the Yankees
a lot of runs. The Brewers got thumped. It is what it is.
Yeah, Yankees are for real.
Yep.
And let's get into game 3 of this Yankees series, the most annoying one. Because listen, I can respect like just tipping your cap to a team that plays well. What I have a really hard time respecting, and I don't, I'm a proponent of not blaming officials when it comes to things like this. And I'm going to kind of redact that a little bit, strictly because of how this game and when we get into last night's game kind of come into this. But to me, this game ended in the 6th inning.
Yeah.
And I'll over the course of the series, I'll say, hey, you can still win series if one of the games is affected by an officiant. I'll say that. But this game should not have gone the way that it did.
No, it should not have.
And when we get to the 6th inning, and the umpires even admitted that they missed this call, it should have been a 1-2-3 inning. Because the Brewers got the next out after the interference that wasn't called. And I don't give a shit what Yankees fans have to say, that they continue like acting like that was a normal slide. Shut up, dude. Nobody slides with the John Travolta hand straight in the air like it's Saturday Night fucking Fever. Nobody's sliding like that naturally. Shut up. I don't want to hear that. If I was a Brewers fan and Tyler McGill is for some reason, or Trevor McGill is for some reason running bases and he sticks his hand up in the air to try to break up a double play, I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, that's interference. That wasn't natural. How are you going to try to defend that? Especially after the umpires admitted that, yeah, it should have been called interference.
And they try to defend it, and they were just like, he's been doing that his whole life. He's a fucking Major League Baseball player. Make him put the fucking hand down.
No, that's no.
That's so dumb. I didn't want to hear any of that either.
Total BS.
It is. It's trash. It's garbage.
James said when any kind of official blatantly disregards the rules, they deserve to be targeted. Let's put a pin in this, James, because I want to come back to this when we get to last night's game. And we'll talk about Monday as well, but there needs to be a pin put in this, and we can just have this as a separate discussion when we talk about all of these games as a whole, because there was another thing in today's game too that annoyed the shit out of me with umpires. So we'll get to that. Gary Sanchez did get his hit streak up to 5 games, and Bowers, he did stave off my replace him with Tyler Black mindset for a little while longer by getting that home run, because I did in the article that I wrote when I was talking about wanting Tyler Black up because he needs to be up. They sent Owen Miller down instead of Bowers, was because Bowers had only been hitting home runs at a 2% clip compared to 4.4% last year, and that's what the Brewers needed. In this game, he gave the Brewers that home run. That's what I needed from Jake Bowers, to be like, okay, keep his roster spot here. Keep him here.
Yeah.
So for Bowers to do that was huge. Tied the game at 4. The Brewers could have had a 1-2-3 inning in the 6th with momentum on their side. Instead, it becomes a 7 running for the Yankees, and the game was over at that point, essentially. And like I said, only the second series loss, but that's all I got.
Yeah, so I have that Adames, Bowers, and Perkins at RBIs. Bowers with 3, obviously the home run, second home run of the year. Frelick scored in the bottom of the 5th off an Adames double, and then Contreras and Adames scored off of a Bowers home run that tied the game at 4. He hit the home run. It was the 3rd straight cutter he saw. He got to a 3-1 count. The first 2 before that one were balls. This one creeped inside a little bit. It got too much of the plate, and Bowers took it for a ride, which is what he is paid to do, right? And then Perkins walked, and Contreras scored in the bottom of the 6th, but didn't really matter, to be completely honest with you. Because, again, all the momentum, everything was deflated on the Brewers side after what transpired. So we'll move on to Monday, which you were there. So why don't you tell us what you saw?
So James said it's similar in soccer, that if you're doing things that are unnatural motions, which, like I said, sliding into second base like it's Saturday Night Fever, it's not natural. That's not a natural slide. Nobody slides like that. Right. Nobody slides with their hands straight up in the air. Nobody does that.
Especially when you're that tall. Like, come on, we know what you're doing.
And you know that a throw is going in between those bases. That's why the umpires admitted that after the game that should have been interference. And like I said, would have been a 1-2-3 inning because they got the next batter up.
He freaking
Anyways.
palmed the thing.
Yeah, it is what it is. So going into Monday's game against the Rays, like Jake said, I was there. So I missed Tyler Black's debut by a day after missing Sal Frelick's debut by a day last year.
Ah, man, you're just a day
Like,
early.
two of my guys, like, I swear to God, if I get tickets to a baseball game in May and I miss Robert Gosser by a day, I'm going to lose it.
That'd be 3 in a row, dude.
Anyways, so Bryce Wilson, he gave up a pretty iffy first inning, started with a hit by pitch and then gave up 2 walks and a run scored on a grounded into a double play. That ended up being the only run of the game. He actually settled in really well after those first 3 batters.
Yeah.
He ended up finishing with 6 innings pitched, only gave up 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. That's a pretty solid line.
Yep.
Now, to the Rays' credit, they pitched really well. Obviously, had the Brewers shut out. Now, Sal Frelick in the bottom of the 9th is essentially where I want to pick this game up. Jumped on the first pitch, had a double in the gap, and we were off to the races. It had the rally caps on, and everything was going. And there ended up being a batter's interference call. Now, looking at Sunday and looking at yesterday, I've come around on this on Monday, and I kind of had this realization even before yesterday's game that to the letter of the law, the batter's interference call was correct. Now, I have 2 things on this, and Vinny Rotino brought this up that this is fine by the letter of the law. It's fine because it can be a safety issue if the catcher were to say get hurt or worse, knocked unconscious. Let's just say. I would, however, like this type of play to be reviewable because 1, the ball was already past the catcher when Bauer's bat made contact with the catcher.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not Bauer's bat would have made contact with the catcher would not have changed the fact that the ball was passed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd almost like it if you could look at it as, say, almost 2 separate plays where there was already a pass ball or wild pitch, however it gets ruled, and then the batter's interference. Because my thing with this is that it looked like the ball, like I said, was already past the catcher, and then the catcher in his scramble to find the ball moved into Jake Bauer's bat path.
It's almost like a PI call in football. Like, did the bat impede his progress towards getting the baseball? You know what I'm saying? I kind of get what you're saying.
I'm almost comparing it to the Aaron Judge situation.
Okay.
Because Jake Bauer didn't do anything unnatural when he was swinging.
Yep.
Like, he didn't just do like a one-arm swing and like fling the bat behind him. Like, it was all part of his natural motion that carried him into the catcher. And the catcher, like I said, was sliding over because he was trying to find the ball.
Yeah.
So that's where I would almost like this to be like 2 separate plays where you could look at it as, okay, there was a pass ball, but then there was batter's interference. So how I would have maybe made sense of this scenario would have been to let Sal Frelick score because he would have, if there wasn't a batter's interference, as part 1 of the play, and then part 2 of the play is calling Jake Bauer out because he still did make contact with the catcher. So that's how I would have scored it. If I'm not a Major League Baseball umpire, I'm just a guy who watches a lot of baseball and takes notes on it, and have listened to tons of books and tried to learn the game more and gone through 100 different sites of statistics. But that's how I would have liked to see it officiated, is to let Frelick score and still have Bowers be out. And you get into this game and you could tell Pat Murphy was tired of the umpires over the last 2 days. And it didn't change. It did not get better.
Nope.
Now, I will say William Contreras had another really good game. Again, just mashing the ball. 106-mile-an-hour single and a 103.4-mile-an-hour line out that at the game, everybody was really excited because it looked like it was going to be another gapper that would have tied the game, but it is what it is. Also caught 2 men stealing in the top of the 3rd and the top of the 9th. And shout out to my guy Brian Hudson for picking off a runner in the 7th. So the Brewers got 3 runners off the bases. So yeah, that's what I have on Monday.
Yeah, I don't really have much else other than that. I guess for this, I'll consider Wilson the starter, not part of the bullpen. With that being said, the bullpen started a new scoreless streak, which I like. They gave us 3. They're at 3 after this one. Ortiz had a double. He's up to 4. And Frelick had a double. He's up to 3. That was 2 of the team's 3 hits that they got in the game. So just a rough day at the plate, and that's how it goes sometimes, man.
All right. What do you have from last night's game? I know there was 2 games going on at once with the Bucks and the Brewers, but it ended up being a nice night because both of our teams won. But what stood out to you from the Brewers last night?
I'm going to hold my thoughts on the Freddie Peralta stuff for a second.
Okay.
Because I'd like when we both get to get our thoughts out there and then we kind of come together at the end. And
especially on like controversial things.
Yeah. So we're going to pick this one up in the bottom of the first. Contreras scored off an Adames sac fly. So one of Adames's 4 RBIs he ended up having last night. He's up to 17 now. Churio scored on a Terang single in the bottom of the second to make the score 2-0. And still in the bottom of the second, Terang ended up coming around on a Contreras sac fly. So 2 of the Brewers' first 3 runs in the first 2 innings were off sac flies. And that's just small ball, and that's how you do it, right? So then we get to the bottom of the 5th. Hoskins is hit with a pitch, and Tyler Black, it's his first career hit. I believe it was his first career hit, right?
It was. First career hit.
Scored on Adames 3-run homer, making the game 6-1. It was a hanging slider, 89 miles per hour, and a 2-0 count, and Adames just took that sucker for a ride. Love to see that.
Yeah.
He definitely has the home run trot going. Just a little foreshadowing for some people. We get down to the bottom of the 7th. Terang doubled in 2. Churio and Ortiz scored. So the Brewers' bats woke up in this one. So 1, you missed Tyler Black's debut. And 2, you missed a lot of runs just by a day. I feel bad for you. But you got to watch the Brewers win anyways last night. So it was worth it.
Yep. I watched both games, so I got that going for me.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned Tyler Black already. Tyler Black's debut, unfortunately, overshadowed by the Freddie Peralta situation.
Yep.
So I went first talking about the judge interference. I'll let you go first talking about Freddie Peralta, and then I'll talk about what happened today.
In my opinion, God, I'm just gonna let it. I'm gonna let it ride. I'm gonna let it ride. My dog is barking. I'm gonna let it ride. My dog wants to get her opinion in too. I think that is garbage to throw a guy out without giving him a warning first.
Yep, you're absolutely correct.
There's a lot of unwritten rules in baseball, right? And for me, I think that it's an unwritten rule that before anybody gets tossed, you kind of warn the benches, right? Isn't that usually how it goes? Like
how it should go.
Like, hey, Pat, calm your guy down, or, hey, Joe Schmo over here. It's going to be a schmuck this weekend as we play the Cubs. A schmuck. Hey, schmucks, settle your guy down. That's how it should be. And for them to go from almost like the Bobby situation, if you really think about it, to go from nothing to get the hell out of here in literally 1.5 seconds makes 0 sense to me.
This is the thing, is that he was not the first batter to get hit in the game.
Right.
And honestly, if you're going to try to say that he hit him on purpose and be like, oh, he hit a home run off of you, you must have been hitting him on purpose. The Brewers are winning 6-1.
Yeah, I didn't even.
He's given up like solo shots like 3 times this season, and it's been like the only runs that he's given up in the game. Yeah. What the hell does he care about one solo shot that his feelings would be hurt that bad to hit a guy on purpose while he's cruising in a game that they're winning by 5 runs?
Yeah, he was absolutely cruising. Could have saved some of the bullpen, honestly.
I'm going to get to that too, because that's my next takeaway.
Oh, okay.
Kurt Hogg from the Journal-Sentinel tweeted this out, that last night's Brewers-Rays game marked the 18th time this season that a player hit a home run and then later in the same game got hit by a pitch, but it was the first time that the hit by pitch led to an ejection.
Wow.
So the Brewers were the 1 of 18 situation where a player got thrown out. And the fact that he didn't even get a warning first is ridiculous.
Wow.
That's where we're at. We're at 1 of 18 territory.
That makes me feel worse. So thank you.
That's why it's like, you know what? Okay, I can let Monday slide. I can let that slide because by the letter of the law, that's the right call. But Sunday and Tuesday, absolutely inexcusable. And now, James, I'm coming back to your comment on when any kind of official blatantly disregards the rules, they deserve to be targeted. Major League Baseball, and this is across the board, this is not just as far as how Brewers fans are concerned, however the last 4 games have gone.
Mhm.
Major League Baseball needs to have the umpires get their shit together because it is bad. And every time you think it can't get worse, they surprise you.
Yeah. You shouldn't be, well said, first of all. We shouldn't be going to a game thinking like, man, I really can't wait to see how the umpires fuck this one up. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing?
And this is the thing with this, and this is why I think this particular game is an ump show. For the fact that Pat Murphy comes out to be like, why the hell are you throwing him out for hitting one batter and not even giving him a warning?
Mm-hmm.
For Pat Murphy to get tossed, which fine, umpires toss managers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
For the umpire to come back and get in Pat Murphy's face after the fact, that is garbage. You are supposed to be an impartial official to come back into the face of a manager you just threw out and get in his face after he's walking away from you is ridiculous. And that's where Taylor posed this question in our group chat earlier. There needs to be something done with the umpires because that is bullshit. I don't care. Suspend an umpire for a series. I don't care what happens. And now later on in this game, there was a fight and guys got suspended. Abner Uribe deserved to be suspended. He started a fight. That's fine. Jose Siri participated in the fight. He got half the suspension, which I think is a little unfair.
Mm-hmm.
But for Freddie Peralta to get a 5-game suspension, which for him is going to be a 1 start, but it's going to be 5 games, that's such garbage.
Yeah.
To determine that he hit a guy on purpose, first of all, without warning him, ejecting him from a game, essentially suspending him for the rest of the game, to then suspend him for another game because he gave up a solo home run in a game they're winning 6-1? Like, what the hell are we doing here, Major League Baseball? Freddie Peralta was at 5 1/3 inning, had only given up 1 hit, which was the solo home run.
Yep.
And 7 strikeouts and only had 66 pitches. You could have easily thrown 7 innings this game, maybe 8.
Yeah.
And you threw him out for hitting 1 batter without warning anybody. And then you're going to still give him a 5-game suspension, which is essentially 1 start. So it's kind of like a 1-game suspension. But you're going to do that on top of having him thrown out of a game he wasn't even warned for?
So think about this. What you just said made me think of something. He could have threw 7, maybe 8 innings. If he doesn't get tossed, Abner Uribe doesn't get put in that situation.
You're right. And I said this to several people. Freddie Peralta getting tossed from this game, it escalated everything.
It did.
Everybody was on edge after that.
Yep. So you try to take control of the situation when you really just multiplied it, in my opinion.
The umpires escalated it. I'd say what it is. Like I said, I'm not going to blame the situation on the umpire.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Brewers still won the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the umpires escalated that situation by the first batter that the Brewers hit, throwing Freddie Peralta out of the game. That put everybody on edge. Pat Murphy, obviously on edge because he got thrown out too.
Yep.
But that put everybody on edge. If you just warned both teams, then everybody's going to be kind of like, all right, we need to keep everything calm. The umpires escalated that situation, especially the crew chief, the home plate umpire.
Yep.
Escalated it, 100%.
I agree with you.
And like you said, if Freddie Peralta goes deeper into that game, maybe Abner Uribe's not even in that position to be in that position.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have anything you wanted to say on today's game?
So I didn't get to watch the game. I didn't get to watch much of anything really today. I was pretty busy at work. So I just know that Adames hit a couple home runs. So I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Okay. Actually, I want to talk about Colin Ray first.
Okay.
Because, when we get into more umpire discussion, the strike zone was really inconsistent today. I'm interested to see what the umpire scorecard is going to look like. Mm-hmm. But there were 2 at-bats where Colin Ray got ahead 0-2, ended up being walks. So Colin Ray didn't have, many 1, 2, 3 innings. Actually, I don't think Colin Ray had any because his 6th inning, there was a reach on error. But with the strike zone being inconsistent, he did not let a single run score. He pitched 6 shutout innings at 99 pitches. And the Brewers are now 5-1 in Colin Ray starts.
Yep.
So like I've been saying for about a year and a half now, every time Colin Ray pitches, he gives you a chance to win.
He does.
You mentioned Willy Adames' home runs, his back-to-back days of home runs, 3 homers in 2 days, his 5th career multi-hit home run day, 8 RBIs in the last 2 days. Willy Adames is getting hot.
Yeah, he is.
And Sophia Minert was talking during the broadcast that DL Hall is about a week away from pitching live at bats, and Jacob Junis is also getting close to return. So there are some reinforcements coming for the Brewers starting rotation soon.
That's great news, honestly.
Absolutely.
They need it.
If there's anything else you want to say on today's game, there's one last thing that I want to touch on as far as an ump show goes before we kind of get out of here.
No, I just feel like the Brewers are being like double handicapped. Thinking about the starting pitching, all the injuries, now Freddie being suspended, and then on top of that, we're getting some shitty umpires, and it's just like I said, it's like double handicap, take out this knee, and it's like the Brewers are kind of limping right now, it feels like, but they're winning games. They just won the series against the Rays.
Yep.
And the Rays are terrible. I don't give a shit. You got to beat who's in front of you, right? So
yep.
They won 2 out of 3, and that's all that matters.
Well, and they lost game 1, 1-0, and then outscored the Rays 15-3 after that.
Love that.
Love that. The last thing I want to touch on, because we got through 8 innings, just like a normal baseball game. And then we get to the 9th inning. God, this is such a stupid thing that this even happened. They made Thiago Vieira switch his glove in the 9th inning. They took away his glove and made him wear a different one because his glove was too distracting. It's literally the same glove he wore last night. Literally the same glove. But they took it away today, let him pitch with it last night. Like, it just seems like umpires were feeling left out. And then the glove that they gave him? Bright yellow. It's literally the same color as the brim of this hat. He had a glove that was white on the outside, baby blue on the inside, and they made him switch it out because it was too distracting and gave him a glove that was this color. Just felt left out. Had to make it about you, umpires. That's what we had to do today.
Yep.
8 innings and it wasn't about you, so we had to change that. Had to make it about you. Seriously, just what a stupid 4 days when it comes to umpiring, and we got to see all of them firsthand as Brewers fans.
Yeah, we did.
And like I said, I can let Monday go by the letter of the law. I just wish that play were reviewable and to be able to be separated. But Sunday, inexcusable. Last night, inexcusable. Today, just stupid.
Yep.
That's where I'm at with Major League Baseball umpires. And however you want to try to fix this situation, I've seen a couple different solutions tossed out there. My solution, like I said, is if they're doing dumb shit like this, suspend the umpires, just like you suspend players when they do things that they're not supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was shared in our group chat, and it was shared on one of our posts. I think it was the post in response to Freddie Peralta. A quote from Max Scherzer. I believe Michael Lauer was the one that shared it.
Mm-hmm.
And Max Scherzer said essentially keeping track of all of the correct and incorrect calls that umpires make and having the bottom 10% subject to being sent down to AAA.
Why not? They do it to players.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Essentially the same system. You have the bottom 10% subject to being sent down.
Those guys get paid a lot of money.
Discussion when it comes to like NFL, XFL, that if there's, an XFL team that's the best of those versus the worst NFL team, and if the XFL team beats the NFL team, that they get to swap places. That's how a lot of European soccer is. Mm-hmm. That if like the best team from the lower division beats the worst team from the upper division, like they swap spots. Like, and that's not exactly how it works, but I don't care because it's soccer. But something like that, and do it with umpires.
Yeah,
I'm 1,000% of giving the best umpires in AAA the opportunity to become Major League Baseball umpires.
Yeah, why not?
I'm absolutely 1000% in favor of that.
Yeah.
So I'm
Could be
totally
any
down
risk
for that
release.
suggestion by Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
So the Brewers are off tomorrow, like Jake said earlier. They play 3 games at Wrigley Field, and then they play 3 games at Kansas City, who is a sneaky good team because they just kind of bought everybody that was in free agency this offseason, basically, was their plan. But I'm looking for a 6-game road trip. I'm looking for a 3-3 stretch.
See, I want to say 3-3 as well, but you know what? I'm gonna say 5-1.
5-1,
5-1,
right.
baby. We're gonna take 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, and we're sweeping the Cubs. I'll never say we're losing to the Cubs.
I'm down for it. If I'm doing a prediction from the heart, 4-2. Just give me series wins. Seriously, give me series wins.
Yeah.
All right, go Brewers. Tomorrow is Game 6 for the Bucks. So go Brewers, go Bucks, and we will talk to you next week. So other than that, thanks for tuning in, and hope you guys enjoyed the show.